roll call.
Councilmember Ewing. Here. Councilmember Guerrieri.
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Here.
Councilmember Olberger.
Here.
Council President Berg.
Here. Please rise to salute the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with public comments. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
If there's anyone from the public that would like to step forward and have any comments, it's 3 minutes per person for current agenda items only.
Hi, good evening. Bonnie Ruben, Highland Lakes. I don't really like public speaking, but they say when you see something, say something. And I just want to start off with, I looked at the announcement for this meeting, this particular meeting, on the township website homepage. And here, to quote, "The purpose of this meeting will be to override mayoral veto of Ordinance 1918. Well, I do believe a little more discretion could have been used, maybe say whether or not the mayoral veto should be overridden. So I'm sure Harry has a different purpose for being here and not to override his veto specifically. So anyhow, what I did want to say about this too is the writing of the ordinance itself. I find it. My belief is that it's been written in a disingenuous, deceptive, and deliberately misleading way. Because I did have a chance to view the council meeting of June 25th, and I saw all the passionate public outcry for people to want to protect their children and make them safe from injury because of the turf fields, degradation and whatever. So, and I understand that, and I agree with that. However, what I don't agree with is the writing, the way this is written. It does nothing in this ordinance specifically refers to Maple Grange Park and turf fields. And I'll just read a couple of whereases and therefore be it ordained from here. The second whereas, it says the Township Council has determined it to be in the public interest to create a tax to raise funds solely for the township's recreation programs. Okay, no mention of Maple Grange turf fields. Then in the first paragraph of therefore be it ordained, the township is hereby authorized to collect the tax with said tax dollars to be dedicated to recreation. Still no specific reference to turf fields. Okay, in the second paragraph it says, funds collected from this tax shall be placed in a dedicated account and only be used for the purposes of recreation. For example, but not by way of limitation to purchase recreation equipment or, not and, or to build and maintain township recreational fields. And finally, in the explanatory statement, same thing, purposes for these funds shall include but not be limited to the purchase of recreational equipment by the township and or. What is the or business? Is it and? Are you going to include the turf fields and the Maple Grange specifically so the public can understand this? This to me is not a great explanatory statement, okay? So that's my thing throughout the entire ordinance. There's no specific reference to turf fields, Maple Grange Park. I think it would be nice to clarify to the public what their taxes for 10 years would be going to, and not some arbitrary, maybe recreational equipment or whatever. I find it very disturbing. And one more observation I made that was a very sad commentary on Vernon, I'm sorry to say, from this particular council meeting, is that several parents expressed that there is, quote, nothing else for the kids of Vernon but these turf fields. And I find it really disturbing, and I think maybe some more emphasis on economic development should be put into what could be used for our teenagers. And my 3 grandsons all graduated Vernon High School. 2 of them were not athletic, so they had no reason to go to Maple Grange. The third one is very athletic. He had a medical condition later on, but he was a basketball player, came from PAL and actually made the varsity basketball team in his sophomore year. Very, very good athlete. So, but the PAL, once you're over 12 or so, goodbye. That's it. So does Vernon have to give to teenagers? That's another question that you should ask yourselves. But I'm disturbed by the wording of the ordinance and that it is not specific enough to inform the voters of what they are actually voting for. So for me, I would say no, uphold the veto and don't override it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step forward, have any comments?
So I pretty much said everything I wanted to say at the last meeting, but I would just like to add in brief that Vernon taxpayers, quite frankly, are crying uncle with taxation. Our taxes have gone up quite a bit this year. They've gone up every year for the past 4 years. The Board of Ed hit us pretty hard and heavy due to their situation this year. So to put forth the possibility of another tax really has to be a real serious consideration. And if it's warranted, okay. Most of us are all about recreation for this town. Most of us are in agreement to keep up our amenities and the turf fields. But I have a question. Why does turf not appear in this ordinance? John, you had mentioned that, we, the electorate, should keep the council members accountable. So I'm asking, how do we keep anyone accountable when this ordinance really, from all intents and purposes, came from addressing the problem with funding turf fields? That's where it came from, supposedly, but that's not what it says. So can anyone just please respond to why turf was not a concern to be put in this document? And potentially in 2 years or more, there's a chance none of you will be here. And John, the very thing that you stood firm on not wanting to see happen again was misappropriation, the money used for something else that it was, other than what it was intended to be used for. And that's exactly what this document will allow. So I'm just asking that if you want us to vote on turf funding, that's okay, but make it clearly that. And just because the person or persons who thought of doing this for November didn't do it soon enough to get it on the ballot to do it correctly, doesn't mean it should be pushed through incorrectly. The spring is soon enough. Go on the primary election with it, but fix it. Don't make it, something that it's not. Dollars to donuts, most people out here think this is potentially for the turf fields. It is not. It is for anything and everything but, and maybe for turf. You won't have control over it after tonight. If it gets voted up, it's going to be potentially a low voter turnout this election. You may have the special interest people who think the people who are really interested in seeing this turf situation resolved may go in greater numbers this November, and it could potentially be voted up. That's my concern. I don't think it should be voted up the way it's written. And I would really like this council to be responsible. Think about, how much taxation we're already putting up with and paying. And if you want to have us decide on another tax, make it correct. That's all I ask. Just do it correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to step forward? Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close?
Motion.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we move on to the reconsideration and override of the mayoral veto of Ordinance 1918. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I said a lot at the last meeting as well. When the people came here to this meeting, they wanted turf fields. This does not guarantee turf fields. So say 8 years from now, 2 mayors from now decide they want to use that money for whatever, maybe, to pacify a certain group of people or use that money for anything they want. And then we'll be taxed for turf fields again, because now they've used that money, whoever that mayor was or whoever used the money. So now we'll have to pay a tax again for the turf fields. This is nothing about the turf fields. We've made resolutions to protect hiring down the road with the anti-nepotism. My first year, we put a hold on anybody working for Vernon that was an elected official for a year. There was talk about, let's have a 2/3 vote on certain ordinances because the administration coming down the pike could possibly change it. So we're so worried about what we do stand in the future, but we're not worried about the turf field issue standing in the future. This could be spent on anything, and it was for turf fields. So then again, if it's used, it will be taxed again. You may say, well, it's going to the ballot, let the people vote on it. Well, first of all, we're here, so they're depending on us to make the right decision for them, but all right, it's going to go to the ballot maybe. But they're not informed. They don't know how much already we put out for recreation. So now we're putting out, again, I went down the list. We pay for it through our schools. We pay for the turf fields through our school tax. We pay for organized sports at the schools. We pay PAL money to run our sports. We just freed up $300,000 from the open space fund for recreation. Now we're going to have this for recreation and possibly another tax if somebody ends up using this for the turf fields in 10 years. Again, I keep on saying taxpayers getting crushed out here. We should be spending a lot of time on getting revenue in to pay for some of these things. We have nothing coming in. So what's going to happen is taxpayers are going to have to carry the whole load for everything. And this will be one of them, turf field. So I don't think it should go to the ballot. And I will agree with Mayor Shortway's veto. He has a plan with the tax. Well, okay, let's let the tax for Airbnb pay for something. Let's do something instead of milking the taxpayer for everything that we need and want. So that's my story. But it's not about turf and this ordinance, and that's where it was born from. We had an hour-long discussion, days of meetings about turf, and it could be used for anything. So that's what I have to say. So I think we should agree with the mayor and veto this.
Is there any other discussion?
Well, just a couple of points. I said at a couple of meetings, the mayor's short-term rental tax was a creative solution and a good idea. Sure, I'm sorry. I said at a few meetings that the mayor's short-term rental tax idea was a good idea and a creative idea to solve the problem of recreation funding and other funding. If you look at most recent news from Governor Murphy, some of those taxes have been rolled back, and they continue to be challenged in court and rolled back. So I'm concerned that that's not a reliable source of income. I think it can be an income stream for the town at some point, just not convinced it's reliable. As far as the taxpayer, we've already saddled the taxpayer with bonds for the current fields, and the only thing to me worse than a tax is a bond, which is a future tax. So we're not monarchs up here, and I'm glad to give the rest of Vernon the same chance to vote that we have.
Yeah, see, my point is that they don't have an informed decision, because we're not putting in here, in addition to what we do already, and let's face it, everybody's too worried about keeping their jobs, getting to work, and that's why we're here, to protect them, because they're too busy working and trying to make a living and staying in their homes, and the seniors, and it's just tax after tax. Okay, it might be nice, all right, we need rec stuff, but they don't know already that this was supposed to be for the fields. And poof, it could be gone and be taxed again. We could be in the same spot 10 years from now with everybody coming in from the community about turf field and say, what happened? like they did this time. I think we have to be creative and let somebody else pay for all these. They may have rolled back the tax, but they're still collecting the tax on Airbnb, or some other method to pay for it. I just don't think that the public knows really what's going on, and if they did, it might be different. And then, if that's the case, it should be in here, so they see the whole picture. They need to make an informed decision.
Any other comments? Any other comments? The only thing I will have to say about this is restraining it too much does just that. The turf, Councilmember Ohms voted against replacing the turf because of the potential health risks. We don't know if there ever will be, but if we bind ourselves so much that anything does come up, but that was why Councilmember Ohms told me she voted against it. So, we're right back to square one, but we're faced with, in 2 years, $525,000, I believe our CFO told us, for the football replacement. This will enable the town to have some money. We had resident after resident ask, is there any money in the budget? Are you planning for anything? Because we will be bonding once again. Their fear was they would have to come back here before this council again in a few years and go through the very exact same thing. So, anyway, is there any other discussion?
Well, if it's used, won't they have to come back again and ask to do the same thing over again if somebody uses it? 2 administrations from now? They'll be saying the same thing, what happened?
And when it's here, they won't. That was the whole idea. But anyway, I'm not going to have a back and forth with you. Do you have any other comments?
That's
No,
called
I'm just-
discussion,
Right.
deliberating, and negotiation.
Right, you made your comments.
Oh,
No, you
good
made your
grief, all
comments.
right.
You made your comments, that's fine. And it's just,
But we're here to talk about things.
you
This
said
is
your
how you-
piece, and I said mine.
Yeah. Oh, God. All right, go ahead.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none?
I mean, you talk about discussion. Discussion is back and forth, not make a statement and that's it. And that's probably one of the reasons why we have make not such great decisions, because there is no back and forth discussion up here. Just saying. We all come up and make our statements, but we never collaborate. So, there you go.
Ordinance 1918, an ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing the collection of a tax of 1/2 cent per $100 of assessed value to be dedicated to recreation, said tax to be collected for a period of 10 years, beginning in the year 2020. May I have a motion to override the mayor's veto of ordinance 1918?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Uhls?
No to putting this on the ballot.
Councilmember
This is,
Ferreri?
excuse me, this is to override.
This is to override the mayor's veto.
No, I don't want to override his
Okay.
veto.
So no. Councilmember Ferreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to override mayor's veto of ordinance 1918.
Readoption of resolution for separate action. This resolution is 19-160, a resolution of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, authorizing the collection of a tax of 1/2 cent per $100 of assessed value to be dedicated to recreation, said tax to be collected for a period of 10 years, beginning in the year 2020. This authorizes the question to be sent to the county clerk. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 19-160?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Uhls?
No.
Councilmember Ferreri?
Yes.
Councilmember Van Tassel?
Yes.
Councilmember Allberger?
Yes.
Council President Murphy?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 19-160.
Next, we move on to our second session of public comments. May I have a motion to open the floor to public?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? If there's anyone from the public that would like to step forward, please do. If you have any comments? Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close to public?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Council comments? Councilmember Carreri?
No.
Councilmember Ohms?
No.
Councilmember?
No.
The only comment I have is that we do have our meeting on Monday, the 26th, at 7 PM. We are expecting to have the Junior Police Academy come in at 7, and then Dan Kraus will be here also giving he has a preliminary presentation of the work that he is doing on the pump track. So it's a project that he is working on. He's looking forward to starting a nonprofit, but he just wanted to show where his initial stage is, and just so everybody in the community can see it, so he'll be here too. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Any opposed? No? Meeting adjourned.